Picture this. On one side of the yard, a massive apple tree, 15 feet wide, 5 years old, still getting established. On the other side, a small bush no taller than your waist, absolutely dripping in fruit. Most people spend years waiting on fruit trees to finally do something. But what if I told you these small bushes, some you can grow in a pot, are quietly outproducing them all? Today I'm revealing 9 tiny bushes that pack more food into a square foot than almost any fruit tree on your property. And a couple of them are hiding in plain sight. Welcome to Timeless Harvest, where we grow smarter, not bigger. If you're serious about turning small spaces into serious food production, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how many different climates and countries are building their own harvest at home. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. This list might completely change how you think about planting your yard. Let's dive in. Bush number 1, blackberry. If you want pure production in a small footprint, blackberry is hard to beat. A single healthy plant can give you 10 to 20 pounds of fruit in a season, and many varieties begin producing in year 1 or 2. That's a fraction of the weight compared to traditional fruit trees. Instead of dedicating a huge section of your yard to one canopy, you can plant a short row along a fence or trellis and start harvesting quickly. Thornless varieties like Triple Crown or compact types like Baby Cakes make management simple, even for beginners, and they adapt surprisingly well to containers if space is tight. Pound for pound, square foot for square foot, blackberries are one of the fastest ways to turn sunlight into real food. Here's what most people don't realize. Blackberry canes fruit once, then die back naturally. That's not a problem, that's the cycle. If you prune out the old canes after harvest and tie up the new growth, you're setting yourself up for an even bigger crop the following year. They respond incredibly well to basic care, and because the root system stays established, production ramps up quickly. For anyone who wants fast results, high yield, and a plant that doesn't require years of waiting, blackberry is the definition of high return in a small space. Bush number 2, blueberry. Blueberries are one of those plants that reward patience, but not the kind of patience fruit trees demand. Most varieties begin producing within 2 to 3 years, and once they settle in, they can give you 5 to 10 pounds of fruit per bush every season for decades. Some plants live 40 to 50 years if cared for properly. What makes them powerful in a small space system is their size to yield ratio. A compact bush like Sunshine Blue stays around 3 feet tall and wide, which means you can grow it in containers, raised beds or tight garden corners. Instead of waiting half a decade for a tree to mature, you're building a long-term food source that fits almost anywhere. The key to unlocking their full potential is soil. Blueberries are not forgiving about pH. They need acidic soil, ideally between 4.5 and 5.5, and this is where most growers go wrong. Plant them in regular garden soil, and they'll survive, but they won't thrive. Use ericaceous compost, pine bark or soil sulfur to dial in that acidity, and you'll see the difference in growth and fruit size. Another advantage is their staggered harvest window. Different varieties ripen at different times, so by planting early, mid and late season types, you can stretch your blueberry harvest across months instead of weeks. For small gardens, patios or anyone thinking long-term food security, blueberries are a quiet powerhouse that just keeps producing year after year. Bush number 3, raspberry. Raspberries are one of the fastest ways to feel like your garden is actually working for you. Many varieties will give you fruit in their very first year, and everbearing types can produce twice in a single season, once in late spring and again in early fall. Instead of waiting years for a tree to mature, you're harvesting handfuls within months. A healthy cane can yield 1 to 2 pounds of fruit, and because each plant sends up multiple canes, that production adds up quickly in a small row. They don't demand a massive footprint either. A narrow bed along a fence or walkway can turn into a steady supply of fresh fruit that keeps coming back stronger each year, as the root system establishes itself. What separates a thriving raspberry patch from a struggling one is airflow and pruning. These plants spread enthusiastically, and if you let them crowd together, you invite disease, especially powdery mildew. Keeping them organized in rows, thinning weaker canes, and tying up strong new growth makes a huge difference in both yield and fruit quality. Another overlooked advantage is how flexible they are. You can cut everbearing varieties down completely at the end of the season for a single heavy fall crop, or manage them for 2 harvests. That level of control gives you options depending on your climate and schedule. For growers who want quick returns, manageable plants, and a long fruiting season without committing to tree-sized space, raspberries are a smart high-output choice. Bush number 4. Currant, black, red, or white. Currants are one of the most overlooked fruiting bushes in modern gardens, and that's surprising when you look at what they offer. A mature bush can produce anywhere from 4.5 to 11 pounds of fruit in a compact space, often within just 1 to 2 years of planting. They stay relatively small, usually around 3 to 5 feet tall, which makes them easy to tuck into corners, along fences, or even integrate into ornamental landscapes without taking over the yard. Unlike many fruiting plants, currants are incredibly cold hardy, with some varieties surviving down to zone 3. That means growers in colder climates, who struggle with peaches or other tender fruit trees, can still build a dependable harvest system. Black currants in particular are nutritional heavyweights. They contain significantly more vitamin C than oranges and are packed with antioxidants, making them valuable not just for fresh eating, but for syrups, jams, and immune support blends. Red and white currants bring a brighter, more translucent fruit that's excellent for jellies and fresh desserts. One of the biggest advantages of currants is how low maintenance they are once established. They tolerate partial shade better than most fruiting bushes, need minimal pruning compared to trees, and tend to have fewer pest issues. If you want a compact plant that handles cold weather, produces quickly, and quietly delivers impressive yields year after year, currants deserve far more attention than they usually get. Bush number 5. Gooseberry. Gooseberries are one of those plants that quietly outperform expectations. A single mature bush can yield 6 to 10 pounds of fruit in a surprisingly small footprint, and unlike many fruiting plants, they tolerate partial shade extremely well. That makes them ideal for those awkward spots in the yard where sun is limited and other crops struggle. They typically begin producing within a couple of years, and once established, they're hardy, resilient, and dependable. Instead of dedicating prime real estate to a large tree, you can slip a gooseberry bush into a shaded edge or under taller plantings and still walk away with a serious harvest. What makes gooseberries especially valuable is their versatility across ripeness stages. Pick them early while they're still firm and tart, and they're perfect for pies, sauces, and preserves. Let them ripen fully on the bush, and they become noticeably sweeter for fresh eating. It's almost like getting 2 different crops from the same plant. They also respond well to light annual pruning, which keeps airflow strong and fruit size consistent. For growers who want productivity without perfect conditions, and who need a bush that can handle less than ideal sunlight, gooseberries turn underused garden space into real, reliable food production. Bush number 6. Elderberry. Elderberry is one of the most productive bushes you can plant if you're thinking beyond just fresh eating. A mature plant can produce 12 to 15 pounds of berries in a season, sometimes more under good conditions, and it grows fast. Within 2 to 3 years, you can have a substantial shrub that's already paying you back. While it can reach 6 to 12 feet tall, it responds extremely well to pruning, which means you can manage its size and keep it productive without letting it dominate your space. Compared to fruit trees that take years to establish, elderberry moves quickly and fills in with confidence. What makes elderberry especially valuable is that it gives you 2 harvests in one season. In early summer, you can harvest the fragrant flower clusters for syrups or cordials. Later, the deep purple berries arrive in heavy clusters, ideal for jams, juices, and traditional preparations. It thrives in moist soil and tolerates a range of conditions, making it reliable for growers who don't have perfect garden beds. Instead of waiting years for a tree to mature, elderberry builds momentum fast and offers both yield and versatility, which is exactly what a high-efficiency food system needs. Bush number 7. Aronia chokeberry. Aronia is one of the most overlooked fruiting shrubs you can plant, and that's surprising considering how tough and productive it is. Once established, a single bush can produce heavy clusters of dark berries year after year with very little intervention. It typically grows between 6 and 8 feet tall, but it tolerates pruning well if you want to keep it more compact. What really sets it apart is adaptability. Aronia handles wet soil, clay, partial shade, cold winters, and wind better than most fruiting plants. If you've got a low damp section of property where other crops struggle, this plant doesn't just survive there, it thrives. Fresh off the bush, the berries are intensely astringent, which is why many people overlook them. But processed into juice, jam, syrup, or wine, the flavor deepens and becomes rich and complex. Nutritionally, aronia is often cited as one of the highest antioxidant fruits available, which makes it especially attractive for value-added products or local market sales. It also has strong ornamental appeal, with white spring flowers and brilliant red foliage in fall, meaning it works just as well in a landscape hedge as it does in a food system. For growers who want resilience, productivity, and something different from the standard backyard lineup, aronia quietly turns marginal land into a dependable harvest. Bush number 8. Goji-berry. Goji-berry is a compact, high-yielding bush that has earned a reputation as a superfood for a reason. It typically grows between 3 and 6 feet tall, making it manageable in smaller yards or even large containers, and it starts producing fruit as early as its second year. Once established, goji bushes can yield a steady supply of bright red berries across a long harvest window, often stretching several months. The fruit is exceptionally versatile. Fresh for snacking, dried for storage, or incorporated into teas, jams, and smoothies. For growers interested in food storage or year-round productivity, goji is one of the most reliable and low-maintenance options available. What sets goji apart is its resilience. Once the plant is established, it's extremely drought-tolerant and surprisingly hardy, capable of thriving in soils where other fruiting plants would struggle. Light pruning encourages bushy growth and maximizes fruit production, but it's forgiving if you miss a season. Unlike many high-maintenance berries, goji can adapt to varying sunlight conditions, though full sun gives the best yields. For anyone looking to grow nutrient-dense fruit with minimal fuss, especially in drier climates or spaces where regular watering is challenging, goji berries are a quiet superstar. Small, tough, and incredibly productive. Bush number 9. Honeyberry haskap. Honeyberry is a game-changer for early-season harvests and cold climate gardens. It's one of the first fruiting bushes to ripen each year, often delivering berries before strawberries even appear in late spring. Each bush yields 5 to 8 pounds of intensely flavorful dark blue fruit, and it thrives in extremely cold conditions, tolerating temperatures down to zone 2. Unlike many fruiting plants that demand years to establish, honeyberries start producing within 2 to 3 years, giving northern growers a dependable and early source of fresh fruit. Its long, slender leaves and delicate flowers make it attractive in a garden setting, but it's the early, consistent harvest that makes it stand out. There's one crucial tip most people miss: honeyberries require at least 2 compatible varieties for pollination. Planting just one bush often results in little to no fruit. When paired properly, they produce a generous harvest that ripens steadily over a few weeks, giving you a reliable crop before most other berries are ready. The bushes are low maintenance, resistant to common pests, and adapt well to smaller spaces, making them perfect for home gardens and patio setups. For growers aiming to maximize productivity in a compact yard, while getting the season's very first berries, honeyberry is simply unbeatable. And there you have it, 9 tiny bushes that can outproduce fruit trees in a fraction of the space and time. From blackberries and blueberries to aronia and honeyberries, each one brings its own unique advantages: speed to harvest, compact growth, resilience, and high yields. Planted together, they create a continuous food supply that stretches from early spring with honeyberries all the way through late fall with raspberries and elderberries. By focusing on bushes instead of traditional trees, you're turning small spaces into highly productive gardens, getting fresh fruit sooner, and building a system that keeps giving year after year. Here's a bonus tip for taking this even further. Think about succession planting. Stagger your bushes so that as one crop winds down, another begins, and pair them with fast-growing annual vegetables to maximize every inch of soil. Mulch well, prune lightly, and plan for companion planting to keep the soil healthy and productive. If you want a full breakdown of recommended varieties by zone, planting distances and harvest timing, check the link in the description. It's a complete guide to getting the most out of your space. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 9 bushes are you adding first? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.